Kare Mwapenduka, and welcome to Africa Good Morning, the show that brings you up to date with the latest news in Africa and beyond. My name is Glenora Shipura, joined by Aina Riza-Kwayo. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
I am also doing fantastic. Let's get into the top stories for this morning. Namibia ranks 7th safest country in Africa according to the latest Global Safety Index. The Black Sea grain deal brokered by the United Nations and Turkey last July is due to expire today. In rugby, the All Blacks beat the Springbok in the Rugby Championship, while Argentina did the better of Australia. You can follow all our programs on oneup2.com or DSTV 285 as well as GoTV 25 in Namibia. On this show today, we have Talent Gore, who's going to update us with the news making headlines in Zimbabwe. We'll be right back with the top stories. Stay tuned.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
This morning, we start off with Sudan, who asks for help from the United Nations. Large unaccounted number of Sudanese refugees who flowed into Libya to escape the ongoing fighting in their country are still living in temporary accommodation, according to Africa News. Sudanese refugee Noah Ismail, who came with his family from Khartoum hoping to find a safe haven for him and his family in Libya's capital, Tripoli. He was able to escape the war and reach Libya safely last May. Sudan has been rocked by violence since April, when tension between the military and the paramilitary rapid support forces burst into open fighting. The conflict has killed more than 3,000 people, according to data from June, though the actual death toll is likely much higher, doctors and activists say. Speaking to the Associated Press, news says that he lost his parent because of the fighting and he was injured in the war, and now he needs an urgent operation on his leg to save it from amputation.
Now, Namibia is ranked the 7th safest country in Africa. Namibia has bettered its safety stance globally, according to the latest Global Safety Index. Yolanda Nell has more.
According to the 2023 Global Peace Index, Namibia is the 7th safest country in Africa and has impressively improved its global safety rank from 68th in 2022 to 56th in 2023. However, the occurrence of muggings does warrant caution, especially when managing cash near ATMs. Most of these crimes typically take place beyond the city center, and the police often find taxi drivers complicit in these criminal activities. Just like Senegal, the US State Department has placed Namibia under a level 1 travel advisory, indicating that the country is relatively safe to visit. Namibia comes highly recommended by solo female travelers and is considered one of the safest African nations for solo journeys. African countries who snatched the top spots are Mauritius, Botswana and Sierra Leone. Neighbor South Africa is ranked 33rd safest on the continent and fell 8 spots, ranking 130th globally. This is the 17th edition of the Global Peace Index, which ranks 163 independent states and territories according to their level of peacefulness. Produced by the Institute for Economic and Peace, the GPI is the world's leading measure of global peacefulness. This report presents the most comprehensive data-driven analysis to date on trends in peace, its economic value, and how to develop peaceful societies. This year's results found that the average level of global peacefulness deteriorated by 0.42%. This is the 13th deterioration in peacefulness in the last 15 years, with 84 countries improving and 79 deteriorating in peacefulness.
In our next story, Black Sea grain deal expires on the 17th of July. The Black Sea grain deal is due to expire today. The deal, brokered by the United Nations and Turkey last July, aimed to prevent a global food crisis by allowing Ukraine grain blocked by conflict to be safely exported. Russia has repeatedly threatened to pull out of the deal unless it calls obstacles to its own grain and fertilizers exports are lifted. Ukraine is a major producer of grain and oil seeds, and the interruption of its exports at the start of the conflict pushed global food prices to a record high. Last ship to travel under the deal left the port of Odessa early on Sunday, according to a Reuters witness and marinetraffic.com. Russia has not agreed to register any new ships since June 27, and the initiative will expire unless Moscow agrees to extend it.
Iran executes British-Iranian national for spying. British-Iranian dual national Al-Risa Akbari, who was sentenced to death in Iran, has been executed, Iranian state media says. Akbari's family had been asked to go to his prison for a final visit on Wednesday, and his wife said he had been moved to a solitary confinement. The ex-deputy Iranian defense minister was arrested in 2019 and convicted of spying for the UK, which he denied. The UK had urged Iran to halt the execution and immediately release him. On Friday, UK Foreign Secretary James Cleverly warned that Iran must not follow through with their brutal threat of execution. He tweeted last week that this is a politically motivated act by a barbaric regime that has total disregard for human life. Iran posted a video of Akbari showing what appeared to be forced confessions. He had previously said in an audio message received by BBC Persian that he was tortured into confessing to crimes he said he did not commit.
In our next story, 3 major oil discoveries made in less than 1 year, active fiscal policies and market-focused regulation, and a strong partner in the national oil company have made Namibia one of the world's most enticing hydrocarbon plays in 2023. Eager to capitalize on these growing interests, the government has put in place an ambitious growth agenda centered around private sector participation and therefore has opened up lucrative opportunities for investors and project developers active across the entire energy value chain. During this year's edition of the Africa Energy Week, taking place in October, has a dedicated Namibian country spotlight session that will provide stakeholders with the information and tools they need to invest and join in the promising Namibian energy market, led by a delegation of high-level industry professionals, including Namibia's Minister of Mines and Energy, Tom Alwendo, and a representative of the NOC NAMCO. The country spotlight will explore all the reasons why Namibia is the next bigger hydrocarbon play.
Now, nearly 500 people lost their lives in 12,588 accidents recorded during the first quarter of this year in Zimbabwe. We get into this story on the other side of the break.
To another exciting episode of Irongo Talk.
Jou lief weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik kan byt.
We take a trip to Zimbabwe where Talent Kore has the news on the ground. Talent, Mamukase.
Mamukase Africa.
Atamuka. Now, in your first story, Kasukuwere files Supreme Court appeal. Tell us about this.
Yes, independent presidential candidate Xavier Kasukuwere, who had his nomination papers nullified by the High Court, has appealed to the Supreme Court, and yesterday he filed a notice of appeal at the Supreme Court to contest the High Court ruling that nullified his candidacy. In a ruling on Wednesday, High Court Judge Justice David Mangota said Kasukuwere failed to prove why he should remain a presidential candidate. He made the ruling after a ZANU-PF member approached the court seeking an order to declare a decision by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to accept Kasukuwere's nomination papers now in void. Kasukuwere, through his lawyers, said that court aired a law. So this means that today the Supreme Court is going to hear appeal which is being made by Kasukuwere. Kasukuwere had his nomination papers nullified and they were declared void by the High Court of Zimbabwe. It actually, after he admitted his nomination papers to become a presidential candidate. So right now there is a war that is going on between Kasukuwere and the High Court. So he has appealed to the Supreme Court. Apparently Kasukuwere hasn't been living in Zimbabwe for the past 5 years. So for one to be he or she has to be a candidate, he or she has to be a resident of Zimbabwe, or he or she has to be living in Zimbabwe for the past 18 months. So that is not the case with Kasukuwere. So now he's contesting the decision by the High Court.
All right, do keep us updated on any further news on this story. Now moving on, nearly 500 people lost their lives in 12,588 accidents recorded during the first quarter of this year in Zimbabwe. Can you get into this story?
Yes, apparently this is according to the statistics on transport which were released by the Zimbabwe National Statistics Agency. They say that 1 in 4 accidents resulted in fatality and 12,588 road traffic accidents were reported during the first quarter of 2023, from which were 474 deaths and 2,386 injuries. So apparently of the 12,588 road traffic accidents reported during the quarter, 275 were fatal, with the month of February having the highest numbers of fatality. And Zimbabwe agency says that unlicensed were cited as major contributors to the road traffic accidents.
All right, and Talent, finally, in boxing, Floyd Mayweather thrills a crowd in Zimbabwe during a motherland tour. Tell us about this.
Yes, Floyd Mayweather visited Zimbabwe. He came in Zimbabwe on Thursday and was doing a motherland tour, which was organized by one businessman and gold dealer Scott Sangam. So Floyd, he went to Zimbabwe's oldest suburb, which is Mavuku, which is it's a high density suburb, and where he was showing his skills in the boxing ring. There isn't much that he actually did, or there isn't much that he's actually doing. He's not promoting anything. He just came to Zimbabwe, and apparently he was given, for the tour, he was given 500,000 United States dollars. And also his jet, he came in with his private jet, and for that, just paid 500,000 United States dollars as well. So also, Floyd Mayweather was given 1 million United States dollars for his visit to Zimbabwe. So right now he's supposed to come back. Right now he's in South Africa and he's supposed to come back to Zimbabwe. He's expected to visit Victoria Falls.
All right. Thank you so much, Talent, for bringing us these stories all the way from Zimbabwe.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
We now take a look at the weather predictions for Southern Africa.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with entertainment. Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes.
Exciting news.
Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country. Here are the economic news proudly brought to you by Bank Windhoek. A flurry of economic data from China is expected to show its post-pandemic bounce is quickly fizzling out, raising expectations that Beijing needs to unveil more stimulus measures soon to show up activity and shaky consumer confidence after a strong start to the year following the dismantling of tough COVID-19 measures. Recent data have pointed to a sharp loss of economic momentum due to weak demand at home and abroad and a protracted slump in the country's property market, traditionally a significant growth driver.
Africa's video game market is booming. Sub-Saharan Africa gaming industry is expected to generate over $1 billion for the first time in 2024, according to data shared exclusively with CNBC. The figures, which were compiled by Dutch research firm Newzoo for African gaming startup Carryfest, suggest a buoyant market for gaming in Africa, where economic growth has been sluggish as the region grapples with lingering inflation, tough financial conditions, and high net debt. Now, Sub-Saharan Africa's economic growth dipped to 3.6% in 2022 from 4.1% in 2021, according to the World Bank, and it is forecast to fall further in 2023 to 3.1%.
Let's have a look at our economic indicators, proudly brought to you by Bank Windhoek.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouth-watering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
We now take a look at the sporting news brought to you by Ari Ohad. Good morning, Ari.
Yes, very good morning. Nice to talk on the Monday. What's happening over the weekend? And it's firstly we go to rugby. not good news for South Africa. They played against the All Blacks in Auckland, in New Zealand. Auckland's winning quite convincingly that game by 35 points to 20. That's in a rugby championship. And that's one of the try scores scored by the All Blacks. Good performance by them especially leading up to the World Cup coming up. And it was also Australia that played against Argentina. And it was Argentina that surprised Australia. They played that game in Australia. So that was 34-31, a big one for Argentina. There's a week break now. Then on 29 July, it is Australia hosting New Zealand, and then South Africa hosting Argentina, the last games in the Rugby Championship. Also, the World Under-20 World Cup that finished in South Africa, that's the winning photo. That is France convincingly beating Ireland by 50 points to 14, showing there's a good talent coming through in France. On to tennis news. It was Wimbledon. It's always an exciting tournament being played in London, and there was lots of action at Wimbledon, with the men's winner this year being Carlos Alcaraz, 20 years old, from Spain. Carlos Alcaraz beating the experienced and defending champion Novak Djokovic. So there's the two players, and it's Carlos Alcaraz there on the right. He's from Spain. He won 1-6, 7-6, 6-1, 3-6, and 6-4 in a 5-set thriller to win his first Wimbledon title. He also won the US Open last year. In the women's division, it was a bit of a surprise. It was the first time ever that the unseeded player won. That's the proud winner. That is Marketa Vondrousova. She is from the Czech Republic. First victory ever. She's number 42 in the world, and she beat Ons Shabir of Tunisia by 6-4, 6-4, breaking African hearts for African player to win Wimbledon for the first time ever. On to cycling news. It was the Tour de France that continued. There's still 6 stages to go this week. They finished over the weekend, and it's Wout Poels that won the 15th stage. But the big news is that there's only 2 that can win it at this stage. It's Jonas Vingegaard, the defending champion. He's on the right there in yellow, and Tadej Pogačar in the white. They're way ahead. There's just 10 seconds behind them. Vingegaard in yellow leading, and it will be stage 16 today. They're 5 minutes in front of the next rider. And also quickly, it was Australia that won the Ashes Cricket Series. That for women, they won the second 50-over ODI one-day international yesterday. And by that, it's a point system. They won the test match. They lost the T20s, but they won the second 50-over international. They won it by 3 wickets. And by that, they win the Ashes. And also to close quickly, it was the Scottish Open Golf, and it was Rory McIlroy of Northern Ireland winning there, spectacularly scoring, making a birdie on his 18th hole. And it's Rory McIlroy beating Robert McIntyre by 1 shot to win the Scottish Open. The British Open, the big one, starts this coming weekend, or this week on Thursday. That's all the international sports news. It was a busy sport weekend, and hope it's a great sport day and sport week for everyone. And till then, till we talk again, goodbye.
Thank you so much, Ari, for your sports news. Up next is the highlights right after the break.
To another exciting episode of Irongo Talk.
We bring jou dit weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik gaan byt.
Thank you so much for watching Africa Good Morning today. Here are the highlights. Sudanese ask UN for help. Iran executes British-Iranian national for spying.
And with that, we've come to the end of our show. Do remember that you can catch Africa Good Morning tomorrow, same time, same place. From me, Glenn Rashipura.
And myself, Aina Raiza Kweyo. Ola Olav, Ola Olaid. Happy Monday.